In this video, we're going to show you how to make tofu loofah stew. It is an incredibly delicious dish with just a few simple ingredients. Bear cuisine. You may have heard the name loofah as the sponge you use in the shower to clean yourself, but it's actually a plant. They just dry it out and it turns very fibery. Today we're going to use this fresh loofah for stew. If you never had loofah before, we highly recommend you try it out because once it is cooked, it becomes so tender and will absorb all the nice flavor of the stew just like a sponge. Most of the time, loofah can be bought at an oriental market, but in the case you can't find loofah near you, you can switch it for zucchini or squash in this recipe. For the main ingredient, we'll need some ground pork, tofu, shiitake mushroom, and loofah. For this recipe, we use dried shiitake mushrooms. The dried ones have so much flavor and they're so delicious. But if you can't find any, you can use any other type of mushroom or just skip it. First, we're going to let the mushrooms soak in warm water for about 30 minutes. Make sure to have the mushrooms face down in the water. Let's move on to the tofu. Cut it open and drain the water. Then use the paper towel to dry the tofu out so the water will make the oil react. Then, cut it into thin slices. I like to have some big slices and some thin slices at the same time. That way it covers a lot of the space that's in the pot. Next, chop the loofah into several sections, and then we're going to peel the outside. The peeling process doesn't need to be perfect. You can leave some green rind and it will add some crunchy texture to the final dish. Just remove most of the green on the outside. Chop the loofah into large chunks and set them aside for later use. Now, let's come back to the mushroom. After 30 minutes, they've been fully soaked and have become soft. Gently rub them to remove the dust from the surface, and then we're going to cut them into thin slices. Remove the mushroom stems because they're hard to chew, and set the mushrooms aside for later. Once everything's ready, we're going to heat up a pan with some vegetable oil, and then add the ground pork. Use a spatula to separate the meat and stir occasionally. Add a few slices of ginger. The ginger will make everything smell very nice in the pot. Once the pot is hot, add the shiitake mushroom in. To season, add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, half tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, and a pinch of salt. Mix everything well. The fat part of the ground pork will slowly release the grease and cook together with the mushroom. We don't need to fully cook the mushroom, as we're going to keep cooking it later in the stew. Adding them to the stir fry here will make the outsides of the mushroom crispy. Together they smell so great and taste fantastic. Remove the pan from the heat and turn the stove to low heat. In another pot, add 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Add the tofu slices in and cover as much of the pot as possible. Add the loofah on top and sprinkle in some salt. Lastly, cover everything in the pot with the ground pork mixture. Cover the lid and let it cook for about 5 minutes on medium heat. While the stew is cooking, let's prepare the sauce. We're going to need garlic and chili peppers. Chop them into small pieces and keep them in a bowl. Add 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, a pinch of sugar, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and a half cup of water, and mix everything well. Add the sauce into the stew and gently mix everything on top. Make sure that the minced pork sauce is covering all of the tofu at the bottom. Cover this with a lid and let it cook for another 3 minutes. 3 minutes, let's take a look. It smells so good. Garnish with a spring onion, and voila, the tofu stew is done. It is a well-balanced meal and tastes wonderful, especially the loofah and the tofu, which both take the nice flavor of the sauce. I especially like the tofu on the bottom. It's got a nice crispy texture. Together with the sauce, it tastes amazing. Thank you so much for watching until the end. We hope you enjoy this tofu stew recipe, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our page for future recipes.